Hi, I'm Tina, M-Search's founder and president. Welcome to this episode of Leadership Delivered, where we discuss and unpack the big ideas behind what's happening in business and recruitment today. Hi, I'm Tina, M-Search's founder and CEO.
I am Anna Maria, our Director of Operations.
So we're very excited today to have a very dear friend of our firm and a fellow Brit, I'm excited to say. We have Alison Cowan as our guest today. Welcome, Alison.
Well, thank you so much, Tina. I very much appreciate this opportunity and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Alison is an international HR and leadership expert whose career has spanned 3 decades across publicly traded, private equity, and family-owned companies all over the world. She's fluent in 4 languages, don't ask me to count them, Alison, or name which ones they are, and has built a phenomenal reputation in elevating leaders and transforming teams across the globe. So we're just, again, thrilled to have you here, Alison. And I think it would be great to start with you sharing a little bit about, who you are, a bit of an introduction and what you're doing right now.
Well, thank you so much, Tina. Yes, well, it's kind of like I've done a lot, right? And when you describe it like that, you think, gosh, I did do all of that, but the journey's ongoing, right? So
Yep.
I guess the languages piece comes because I wanted originally to be an interpreter. That was my life's plan. And then at the age of 21, after getting my degree, or partway through my degree, I changed my mind. And the rest has kind of been, I guess what I'd say to youngsters is this: my career is a really good example of 3 ways that I think people's careers develop. Number 1 is plans. There's certain things that I really wanted to do, and I made sure I got them done, or I'm still doing them now. The second is we apply for things, we don't know that it's coming up. We see an opportunity, and we voluntarily say, hey, why don't I go and do that now? And there's certainly been on my journey, and I'll refer to this a little bit in our conversation, plenty of that. And then the third thing is when change is thrust upon us. And some of the things that have happened to me in my career have been quite painful at the time, including recently. But I've always found that they have the most exciting outcomes.
Yeah.
And so right now I'm still an HR and talent executive, and I'm currently doing a couple of things. I'm partnering with Dale Carnegie, which is a global leadership, high impact presentations and sales training organization. I work very closely with the British American Business Councils of Central Florida and Miami, and lots of other things that I'll kind of go back to number 2 and see what comes up.
Yep, keeping busy.
Yes. Yeah, it's strange how these things come along the way.
Yeah, fantastic.
Marvelous.
So I'd like to move on and talk about evolving leadership through change. Alison, given the rapid shifts in the workforce and business environments, such as, remote work, globalization, layoffs, shifting general expectations, how have you adapted your leadership philosophy over time? And what would you say remains as your non-negotiable?
Yes. Oh, gosh. I think my leadership style has evolved through experience, and that's just not my own, but working with human resources, I was never somebody who sat in their office and waited for the phone to ring or somebody to walk in the door. So I've been very, very lucky to work with a number of really good leaders who I supported, but also just sat in the same room with them, or talked to them about their teams, or I just observed them. And this could be, I'm thinking of one in particular who was a supervisor on the shop floor leading a team of forklift truck drivers. And early in my career, he was one of the best leaders I've ever seen, and a lot of it was innate. He was asking me for advice.
Wow.
So I think, one of the most important things that leaders can do, my non-negotiables, would be to say, you've got to form the relationship with your teams. And I don't mean, just knowing who their partners are, what their children's names are, or what they want to do outside of work. It's important. And I've always done that. But I've really emphasized to the teams that I've led, as I've evolved that philosophy of really form the relationship before you need the relationship.
Oh, I like
That's how I describe it now, because
form the relationship before you need
the relationship.
I like
so form the relationship and the relationship is trust, and I don't just mean predictive trust, like I call you, you'll answer. I send an email, you'll do this. That's where we start, I think. As I've evolved my thoughts around trust, I've said it's trusting that you have my best interests at heart, trusting that we will listen to each other and we've got some ground rules of how we want to work together, and also trusting that we can have a little bit of what I call positive conflict. So I also encourage leaders, and try to do it myself, to say, you've got to be able to disagree with somebody without anyone walking away hurt.
Yeah.
So when I say build the relationship before you need the relationship, if you've really got that level of this is how we work together, we don't always agree, but we know where we're coming from. When you need to say, hey, I disagree, or this is a decision that you might not agree with, people walk away less wounded, or they walk away wounded by the decision and not by the person. So that's kind of how it's evolved over time for me.
Do you set those expectations when you make that hire?
Yes, I do. Yes.
You do. Okay.
Yes.
So they know not to be afraid.
Yes.
To make that challenge. Okay.
And some people react better to that than others. I've heard team members who've said to me, and I'll go around and I'll say, we're going to just start to form this relationship as a team. It's not just a 180 with me, it's a 360 with the team and then with our stakeholders. We start with some very simple conversations about what do we appreciate about working in this team, and safe things. What are we proud of in this team? What do I contribute to this team? And then you build up over 2 or 3 conversations with, what do I think we need to do better as a team? But you can't start with that, because everyone will go, I don't know. The psychological safety isn't there. But to your point, Tina, I've never had a negative reaction to that, but it has taken me, the longest it took me was 2 years to get a team comfortable with that. Because when you join a company or you take on a new role, you could have people who've been working with somebody else for up to 20, 30 years. And they have to get that overnight, and they're trying to figure you out. So do I do that? Yes. Is it always immediately effective? No, but you have to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think just continuing from that, like, what do you believe are the most important qualities a leader must cultivate today compared to, say, 10, 15 years ago, especially in HR and talent roles?
Yes. Well, I think the thing, let's start with what I think hasn't changed. And it's the things I was just talking about. Form the relationship before you need the relationship. I think what's evolved more over the last couple of years is leaders. I encourage leaders now, and try to do it myself, to say it's okay to show when I'm not having a good day. And I look back in the early days of my career in the 90s, and that was seen as a weakness.
Oh,
that was seen as you have to make everybody positive. I hear that now. No, you don't want to walk around and go, oh my gosh, the budgets are all over the place, and might not be completely authentic or completely open. There are obviously boundaries, but I gave a piece of advice to a leader. I can remember the year very clearly. It was 2005, and he had to make a layoff announcement, and he was sweating. It was an in-person announcement. The paper was shaking, and I remember him saying to me, gosh, I can't go out yet. And I went, I want you to go out right now with the paper shaking and say, I have some news to share, and this isn't going to be easy for me. And very reluctantly, I kind of pushed him onto the stage and said, I'm going to be there next to you, but you're doing this. And the paper was shaking. He had to stop. And afterwards, they were thanking him for showing that he cared. Now, that was new, and in 2007. Fast forward to today, there's so much talk about authenticity. What I've always done with my team is to say, do you know what? I've got a lot on my mind today, and I'm sorry if I'm a little distracted, but I want you guys to know it's not you. So, and so if I say to you, hold on a second, I don't want you to think that I don't care. But I just want to share that I've just got a few things on my mind. And that's what I mean about being open and transparent, because when you say to them, you can say, yeah, I've got a lot on my mind. There's a couple of things I'm a bit concerned about. You might be more worried about it. But you've made it safe to say it's not you. So when you ask them how they are, they're not going to go, I'm fine. But not really, because I can't show you that I'm fine. So
that's a real person.
Well, that's the dripping of, I love what Stephen M.R. Covey, son of the famous Stephen Covey, said in a book that's 20 years old now, which is, all about trust. And he says, you've got to do trust deposits. You can't just say, we've done these sessions and we're great. You have to keep going. But those little conversations of, vulnerability and authenticity. And, I got tearful talking about something only sort of 6 months ago. No, actually, no, it's longer ago, a year ago. And I was giving praise to my team, and I said, sorry, I didn't expect to get emotional. I'm just so proud of you guys because it was such a difficult year. And I saw them going like this. And afterwards, somebody said to me, gosh, she really cares. I'm like, well, I've been telling you that I do. But years ago, that would have been, you can't show that. So I
That
think
would have been a
that's
sign of weakness back then. Absolutely.
it would have been. And now there's lots trending about that's a sign of strength. But I think it's not about empathy, just empathy. I think it's about bringing our whole selves to work. And that's what I think has evolved most in the last couple of years.
Yeah, keeping it real. Yeah, I love that.
To piggyback off the end of that, you often emphasize that empathy alone isn't enough for leaders, but empathy combined with resilience is essential. How do you balance empathy with the demands of performance and accountability that sometimes make difficult decision making?
Yeah, so I think empathy was something that was trending a long time ago, and it was good because it started opening the doors. I think empathy is important, but a lot of leaders really struggle with it. And they might say, well, I don't know how you're feeling. And often as a coach, I'll say, don't say to somebody, I know how you're feeling. I learned that the hard way when somebody looked at me and went, you have no idea. I think empathy has evolved now to sort of say, I can see that this really matters to you. That's a nice way of showing I'm paying attention, I'm in the moment. Distractions are minimalized, and I've said that myself, I can see this looks like this is really difficult for you, or I can see that, this means a lot to you. But that resilience comes from saying, first of all, that's not a weakness. But resilience has evolved. It's not just put on a brave face and off you go. I think resilience nowadays is about, and I said this to a team member of mine, I said, the only thing you can control is yourself. And you'll hear someone say, you can control your reaction. I just say you can be aware of your reaction. We can't always control the tears or the anger because lots of things are going on. But the only thing that we can be within our sphere of influence and control truly is ourselves. So when people say, I just want things to calm down, or I want it to go back to the way it was, well, hello, that isn't going to happen. Yeah. And you've got to be resilient to every ambiguity and change and find a way to be less negatively impacted by it. And that's what I mean by how resilience is evolving. But having the empathy to say, I can see this is hard for you at the same time, and that's okay too.
Yeah. It's about acknowledging maybe when you're off course or when someone's being knocked off course.
Yes.
And then becomes more focused about just getting back on track, getting back on track.
And to your point, the performance conversation starts with, I can see this is difficult, or, if something isn't going well as a leader, you might say, how do you think that went? So, and the person might say, great. And you go, well, I could see you worked hard. There's some changes we need to make, or I think this is an area of development for you. Or if the person says it was terrible, you can say, I wouldn't say terrible. So you can start softly, but, I'm not saying that leaders don't need to be tough. And sometimes if you've gone along that route and things still haven't changed because either the person just says, it's not me, it's everybody else, I'm not going to change, or if they've tried really hard and you just sometimes have to say this isn't working anymore. But back to that, my original point, you create the relationship before you need the relationship. If you're sitting down and saying to somebody, we've been working for this for 6 months now, and how do you feel it's going? And if they say, I'm really struggling, I would say, yes. And I think, we talked about this before, I think we need to go in a different direction now. I'm not saying they won't like it, but it comes from a place of, yeah, okay, I get it. And then the conversation can morph into, and it's my role to help you through this change, but it is happening.
Yeah. I mean, talking about change and then also, culture, because I want to just get to that just for a minute. Like, how do you coach and guide leaders and organizations to build culture intentionally? And, just not just in, volatile times, but in good times as well. I'm just curious about your,
Well, culture is obviously one word that can mean a lot of different things. And that could be the culture in their team, the culture in the organization. And the question I ask is, how do we do things around here? How are expectations set? How and when is feedback given? How are what is praised and what is corrected or even punished. And how do we treat people? Because so many organizations say we treat people really well, but we fire executives with no compensation or no outplacement because we just say, you're gone, we don't care.
Yep.
So get really real about what your culture is, and then be really clear on what you want to start, stop, and continue doing and why. Because if you're saying, well, we need to have a culture that's more, let's say, more performance oriented rather than just everybody just do your own thing, well, multiple pieces to that. You can't just put it on an email and expect everybody to figure it out. So it starts with the leadership team being aligned on where are we coming from and where are we going to. And then you've got to start really illustrating in those three areas. Just keep it simple. And also, how do we communicate information? Which isn't just how do we announce, it's how do we listen.
Yeah.
So be really intentional and break it down on those four areas. First of all, communication, expectations, feedback, and correction, stroke punishment. And I'd say probably celebration. And then say, where are we going from? Where are we going to? And how is everybody going to change what we do to shift that culture? Too many people overcomplicate it.
Yeah. I love the way that you explain that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take a little shift here in question and talk about career transitions, which you know well.
Yes, I do, yes. Mm-hmm.
And a bit of reinvention as well. So in one of your recent posts, you wrote about regrets in career moves and the importance of reskilling and moving forward.
Yes.
So rather than dwelling on what might have been, in your experience, how common is that regret among executives? And what advice do you give leaders wrestling with those doubts when considering a transition?
Yes. Well, it's not something that everybody will experience. There are plenty of people who never experience a layoff or who never get to choose. Back to my second point, all of their career choices have been selected. So I think it's grown in a commonplace, particularly in the last 12 months. You know, we've just seen the economy and global concerns across multiple industries really shifting. So I think more people have been going through it. But, you know, when you find yourself in a situation that you didn't plan and you didn't really want, it can be quite easy. And I'm one of those people, I can look back on a couple of decisions I made in my career that I think if I had my time again, I would make a different decision. So the first thing I advise is, number one, don't brush that aside. It's important to just reflect on it, but don't live there. You want to visit it, but not live there. Think of it like a wave coming in and then the wave goes back out again. Yeah. And say to yourself, I made the best decision that I could with the information that I had at the time. So number one, recognize why it was done. And then the next one is, you know, this is a moment in your career. It can feel like forever when you are in it. And sometimes it can feel that the whole world's saying no. You know, you apply for jobs that you're qualified for, you don't get them. Or you go for an interview, you think you've nailed it and you don't get it. So you really have to. Pardon?
Or you don't even hear back.
Oh yeah, plenty of that, yes. So the second piece of advice that I would give leaders is this does not define you. And you will have ups and downs in transition of feeling super confident and feeling super alone because you've gone from being in an organization, particularly at the executive level, where you belong. Yeah. It takes a while to just turn that off. It really does. Particularly in the early days, you find yourself going, suddenly my calendar's empty and I'm not used to that. And I'm missing the obligation to be somewhere at a certain time or to do something. And that is something that a lot of executives really struggle with. Not all, some go, this is great, I'm going to take 6 months, spend some time with the family, but a lot do. And then I think you need to get really clear on, well, where am I going now? And what can I do to gain more skills? It doesn't mean go and invest in every course under the sun. It could be work with a coach. There are a lot of really good transition coaches. Yeah. It could be just sitting down with a cup of coffee and just saying, I'm going to write down all the skills that I've got and I'm really going to think about how they could contribute to whatever I'm going to do next. And really be flexible about what you want to do next. There might be that you move into a great new future for you, whatever that looks like. Or you might find yourself I'm in the job for right now and I'm still in transition in a certain way, or whatever it might be for you. So these are skills that if you're in an organization, are pretty dormant because you've got other skills that you're using. So it's about normalizing those and saying, if you're having these up and down moments and these fears and these concerns and these worries, back to my wave. It's a wave that's coming in to your shore right now, and every wave goes back out again. So think about it, focus on it, acknowledge it, because don't just push it aside, but also let it go, and think that this is just a wave that's also going to pass.
That's so valuable. I can say definitely in my career there have been times where I've defined myself just by the hustle that I had, and there's so much more to it.
Yeah.
So in that vein, you've spoken publicly about managing exhaustion and prioritizing wellness and sleep. What boundaries or rituals have you built to preserve both leadership effectiveness and personal well-being?
Yes. Well, I think one I've put in place recently, which I'll share as I reflect back on the last 10 years of my career, is really being aware of when it's not a good fit. Because, I think it's too simplistic to say work shouldn't feel like work. It should feel like play and somebody's paying you for it. If you can get that, look at you. Yeah. But not many of us are. But I think sometimes, we find ourselves exhausted. It could be for a number of reasons. Maybe there's other things going on in life, caring responsibilities or financial worries or relationship issues. We can all imagine what those are. And maybe it's just I'm going up too early and I'm not getting to bed in time because I'm binging Netflix in the evening. So that's the superficial things. But if you find that you're feeling exhausted and you're taking care of yourself, something else is going wrong. And that's acknowledging that something isn't a good fit. I haven't always done that. I've just kind of said to myself, I'm going to keep going and I'm going to get better at this. And it's been really checking in with myself regularly. I mean, even at a weekly basis, and saying, how am I feeling? What's gone well for me this week? What would I change? And on a happiness scale, where kind of am I? Because exhaustion can be something, I think, that by the time we realize we're exhausted, it's too late. And I've been there. I have never completely burned out. And I think that's whatever that threshold is a very personal thing. But I've worked with many people who have said, that's it, I've got to take time out of work, I've got to go see the doctor. Whatever it means to you as an individual, as a leader, as an individual contributor, it's be aware, self-awareness and self-regulation of what is working for you and what you need to do to take care of yourself that is beyond taking a deep breath.
Yeah. I mean, what responsibility then do you think senior leaders have, not just for their own well-being, as you talked about, but modeling sustainable leadership for their teams, especially in high pressure, high growth environments, especially right now, the way things are, everyone's kind of on a mouse on a wheel.
Yes. I think it comes down to three things. I think number one, it's no use saying to your team, go home, look after yourself if you're in the office from 7 until 7. Yeah. If you need to be in the office from 7 till 7, but you don't need them to be, then you need to articulate that. I'm working on something, but I don't need you to do this, and I certainly don't measure you on where you are. But if you can, say, I'm going home, and I suggest you do the same thing. I mean, I've used the word crowbar to some of my teams sometimes. Go home. And if I have to get a crowbar, I'm going to do it. Because their previous boss measured effort and through presenteeism. So I think, number one, be very aware as a leader that everybody is watching, and make sure that you're not contradicting your own values or statements. And if you are, articulate why. Yep. Number two, be very careful with not rolling your eyes when somebody walks into your office and says, I'm stressed, I'm struggling to cope. They tell you why, and you think that's stress? You should try doing my job. Yeah. I've heard this from leaders that have reported into me and said, she shouldn't be stressed about this. I'm like, hold on, take the word shouldn't. Yeah. What you're saying is this wouldn't stress you because you're more experienced. You've got you maybe just this doesn't worry you. We all have our worries. So number two, be patient. And that's where understanding, even if inside you're thinking, good grief. Again, back to, I can see this really matters to you. Even if you think I don't empathize. Yeah. And number three, I think going back to creating that environment where people can talk to you, but there's another talk about, well, your leader needs to be a coach, needs to be a mentor. Yes, there are times you have to get your job done. So I've sometimes said to my team, look, if the world's on fire or you really can't wait, come on in, but I might not be able to spend that long with you, but I will call you later. But if something awful has happened, then you need to tell me this cannot wait. But that should be a very small, like, the place is on fire, or you're about to quit right now, or somebody's hurt themselves and you interrupt me right away, whatever. So making time to hear those, but recognizing when you're not in your right frame of mind. So I've sometimes said, I can see this person needs me, but I've got this presentation I've got to make on my mind, and now is really not the right time.
Yeah.
So being authentic and saying, I really want to speak to you. I can see that this matters to you. Now isn't a great time for me because I'm not sure I can bring my whole self to this conversation because it's something I've got to do soon. But if I can call you later on, you will have my undivided attention. Does that work for you? And I've had great feedback from my direct reports. But you do have to put those boundaries in place and say,
yes,
if it's something that really can't wait, and I've had that once or twice where someone said, it can't wait. Okay, what is it? It's like, well, I'm pregnant and I've got a problem. I need to go. Right, go right now. You're right to interrupt me. Or so and so's just collapsed. Okay, fine. Yeah, so really caring about people. Or there's somebody here who really needs to see you. Okay, now I have a decision to make. Do they really need to see? So making those three things clear, I think, but not rolling your eyes when you think this is not stressful. Because sometimes it isn't to us.
Yeah. Acknowledgement, communicate, and then set expectations.
Yes, yeah. But being present. But being present doesn't mean abandon your job. And are we rescuers? Sometimes, yes. If I can turn somebody around from leaving, yes. If somebody really needs just to right a bit, left a bit, or they're really struggling and you need them to deliver, yes, you go rescue. But you don't want to live there.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. So I want to pivot a bit to talent acquisition and the future of work. So as someone that's deeply experienced, Alison, obviously in global talent strategy and HR, how do you see the role of talent acquisition evolving in the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh, I think it's one of the areas of HR that's moving really quickly right now. I guess what isn't going to change is the human aspect, because and the higher up you go with the roles, the more you want that human connection. Yeah. What I see is evolving is when I think at mass recruitment, think call centers, forklift truck drivers, unskilled shop floor workers, or anything where it's Amazon drivers, anything that's high volume. The role AI is really advanced. I'm using the past tense really quickly to be able to do some of those initial touch points that have previously been done by a human, and very time consuming. Here's like 100 candidates that I need to speak to or filter or check that their license is up to date or whatever. And there's some really interesting technology where the candidate experience is clear that it's speaking to AI, but AI sounds like a human, and AI can interpret some of their answers to say, right, we're really looking for, I don't know, I'm going to make this up, experienced forklift truck drivers right now. So as you haven't done this for a couple of years, this isn't the right opportunity at this time, but we'll keep you in mind. Or we've had a great conversation. I would like to progress you to an interview with a human what member of our team. Does Tuesday at 10 o'clock work for you? And that is going to do a number of things. It's going to really speed up time to hire, which is always something that matters to hiring managers.
Yep.
And it's also going to really speed up the candidate experience. You're not waiting for somebody to call you. It's right now. So it's really going to help. At the executive level, I've already seen this. There is AI can really speed up taking somebody's resume and just putting it into some kind of summary, which can then go to the client. What I think as a client reading those is, that's just AI. What I always used to ask and still do to search consultants is, okay, I've read the resume, I've read the summary. Tell me how this person came across to you.
Yeah.
If I'm really looking at not just the what, but the how, which I think is really important, that hasn't changed.
Yeah.
And
it's that right element, as you said.
Yes. It's at manager level and above. There's the what, but what people hire for and what they fire for is the how, in my experience.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A little bit further on that, how do you think organizations and leaders should prepare to attract and retain talent in a landscape where generational expectations, remote and hybrid norms, and workforce values are shifting constantly?
Yes, yes. Well, I think this depends on the environment that you're in. But if I could say for a leader to really choose for themselves, I would say um, there's a real shift that needs to happen, partly because of generations, and partly because of just the amount of job changes that people have had over the last couple of years. So shift from experience to skills. Because if you're looking at the skills that somebody has got, you're going to have to look past some of their job titles. But too many leaders go, oh, you haven't had that job title, therefore you don't know what you're doing. Well, maybe you did it as a project, or maybe you had it as an internship, or maybe you did it earlier in your career, but that's something that you've continued to build on. So that is not happening in my experience, I don't think, yet. This, and particularly during 2025, when hiring was becoming more and more risky. I heard leaders say hiring is so risky because you're doing it on gut feel, and you're doing it based on what the person's done before, and that as a predictor of future performance. And that's you're overlooking skills. You really, really are. So I think the advice I would give is read a resume from back to front, not what did you do in your last job, but look what they've done, and just think of the candidate as a whole person through life experience, because you could look at job titles and then say, but you did that in different industries and you worked in different parts of the world like I have. You've seen it all, and I have, but at the same time I get, well, you've moved around a lot. Well, is that a bad thing? Of course it's not.
Right.
So I think it's shifting to say, it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter what you've done, how much time you've spent. What matters is the skill that you've got and the mindset that you're using. Are you just saying, I've done it before, therefore I'm going to copy paste? Or I know it all, that's a problem. Or this is what I've done and this is how I now want to move forward for it. That's what I think is most important for hiring managers to bear in mind.
Yeah,
I agree.
Fantastic. So I want to move over now to, obviously, because we're covering a lot here today, and you've been crushing it here. Thanks, Alison. So I wanted to talk about, mentorship, coaching, and leadership, which I know is very close to your heart. So you've built a personal brand around coaching, leadership development, and helping global expats, entrepreneur leaders grow. What would you say is the most common mindset shift you see work, especially for people that are stepping into senior roles or navigating major transitions?
Yes. Oh, I think this is an easy one. It's not about having imposter syndrome and saying, my God, they're going to find me out, and being lacking confidence.
Yeah.
But it's also not about being total confident, saying, I've got this. I've seen so many leaders around the world do that. The balance is in the middle. Be clear about what you don't know. Articulate what you don't know. But do something about it. Get a number of trusted advisors, and I mean a number, one isn't enough. Ask people who are already working around you, who are experts, say, we're going to work together. I might be the boss on paper, but I'm going to learn from you as much as you're going to learn from me. We're going to do this together. And that's a nice way of saying I don't know it all, but I'm going to figure it out. So it's having that. Yes, I bring a certain number of skills and experience into this new position, company, industry, whatever. Yes, I have a lot to learn, but not saying, and I don't know what I'm doing. That's not going to be a good feeling either. So I think no matter where you are, it's having that growth mindset and really having that asking for feedback, which can be difficult and can be too on the nose. If you say to your direct reports, give me some feedback. If the culture doesn't do that, they'll look at it and go, I don't know what do you want me to say? I tried that and I learned that 15 years ago. I said, why don't you give me some feedback? And we all went, that's not our role. But there's a different way to ask for that, to say, I had some CEOs do this with me. I really wanted to make sure that I gave everybody the chance to speak in that meeting. I'd love your thoughts on how, did you think that happened? Is there anything I should do differently?
Yeah.
That's asking for feedback, but giving it some
Yeah.
context and say, I thought you did a really good job, actually. Yeah, I thought that worked. That's
Yeah.
easier to answer than give me some feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. So for leaders who feel lonely at the top or
Mm,
disconnected, what practical steps or habits do you recommend to build community, connection,
yeah.
psychological safety for both themselves and their teams?
Yeah. So I think number one, recognize it. There are moments when you will feel that you've gone out on a limb, and some of that comes with the territory.
Mhm.
As leaders, we're not paid to just keep the lights on. We're paid to really develop the organization, come up with new strategies, and sometimes that is going to feel lonely, particularly if you're selling a concept or an idea and your peers or the decision makers are not completely on board. Sometimes you just got to be strong and work through that. But if I go what I think you were asking, where if you're just thinking, I just don't feel that I've got the support around me. Number one, ask
Yeah.
yourselves, is this a terminal situation because this is not a good fit for me? That's one question you have to ask yourself. But I think for a lot of times it's about making sure that you've got the support around you that you need. So number one, creating an environment within your team where you can have open conversations and dialogue, but not just within the team. If you're just doing it within the team, then other sort of organizational teams that you work with will start looking at you going, they're a closed book, they're not listening. So forming relationships with other teams, being open and collaborating with them, asking for feedback, expressing your value, so it's an exchange.
Yeah.
But then as a leader, it's also finding your tribe. Now that could be connecting with others in your function outside the organization, and there are lots of these around where you can say, I'm really struggling right now. That is incredibly cathartic.
Yeah.
Making time for your own self-development, getting a coach or a mentor or somebody who's done that job before, that you can just lay yourself there and be vulnerable. I just wouldn't recommend doing that with your boss. But also having open conversations with your boss. The best leaders I've connected with have walked into my office and go, oh, what a day. I really need your help with something. And then me also walking into their office and going, I remember one when I was working in Belgium, great guy, Mike Shedovy. We had this relationship, and I've told him this. And we could walk into each other's offices and going, can I just have a moment? Oh,
Yeah.
because you're not going to do that in front of your team.
Yeah.
But we were just there for each other, and we
Yeah.
drop in because the CEO role is as lonely as the CHRO. So having that relationship, and I did it with the CFO as well, where you can say, so finding your tribe and creating that positive conflict, that camaraderie amongst the C-suite as well. Too many C-suites are dysfunctional, and don't do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So when you look ahead, what kind of leadership legacy do you hope to leave?
I would like to feel that, I've had some of this feedback already from people to say, I wouldn't be where I am without you. That's that warms my heart and my soul. I've learned so much from you that shaped me into who I am today. I'm not looking to create clones. I don't want stormtroopers, I want Jedis. Forgive me, I know that's but I just love that example, because what I've done, and I say this to somebody I'm mentoring right now who's very early in her HR career, I said, this was my experience. You're going to have your own. But here are 3 things to think about. So making sure that I'm provoking thought in people, that I'm there when they need me, but that I'm guiding them down their own path. That is something that I think really rewards me. And also people saying that I gave them opportunities that they didn't expect and that they worried, but I was there to guide them through it, and that it worked out really well for them. Or even if it didn't, that they said, it didn't work, but I always knew that you were there for me. And so I think growing other people's careers and having that legacy, and also I guess from an organizational perspective, that I've transformed things and made things better.
Yeah, I love that.
That's the dream right there.
So last question. If you could go back and tell your younger, more performance-driven self one thing, what would it be? And how might that change have altered your leadership journey?
Oh, it's a great question. Stop trying so hard. You know, just trust who you are. Just be.
Just be. Yeah.
And I had that advice. I actually had somebody sit me down and say, stop trying so hard. I've heard that a couple of times in my career, but I was brought up, my parents were traditionalists. They were born during World War II. And I was brought up in it, like, always try your hardest. So I was brought up to say effort equals success. Now, I still think effort does equal success. If you just sit down all day and wait for the world to come to you, you're not going to get very far. But I would go back and say to myself, and I continue to remind myself now, because that's instilled in me, is, sometimes just chill out a little bit and just trust who you are. Yeah. And sometimes trying can be a little too much.
Let it flow.
Yes, just be.
You've just listened to another episode of mSearch's Leadership Delivered. To learn more and connect with us, click below or head to our website at msearchadvisory.com.